Okay, so factors are numbers that multiply to create some type of product. So basically, when you have a number, and if a problem is asking you to list the factors, that means you just have to find all the numbers that multiply to create that number. So if we're looking for the factors of 6, so you just have to think about it and just multiply or find the numbers that divide evenly into 6. So I know 1 times 6, and I know 2 times 3. So then the factors of 6 would be 1, 2, 3, 6. So usually you just write them in order, but you don't have to. You just make sure you separate them by commas when you put them on My Math Lab. So if we have 12, you just list all your factors of 12. So what are all the numbers that multiply to create 12? Or you could think about it as what are the numbers that can divide evenly into 12? So you have to understand that you really need to be good with your timetables when you're doing these problems. So if you're not good with your timetables, you need to have your calculator with you, and you need to just divide numbers into the number. And so when you divide numbers into the number, so if we're looking at 12, we know 1 and 12. And then you would just start trying numbers. So 12 divided by 2, and it'll give you 6. So then you know that 2 and 6 are factors. So then you can try 3. And when you divide 12 divided by 3, you would get 4. So since you get a number, it's 3 and 4. And so then hopefully if you try something else, like if you try 5, you would get 12 divided by 5, and it's going to give you a decimal. So that's how you'll know, oh, 5 doesn't divide evenly into 12, therefore 5 is not a factor of 12. So, and then you should be able to understand when to stop if you're good with your timetables, okay? So then we have factors of 9. So that would be 1 and 9 and 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. Factors of 5. So factors of 5 are 1 and 5. So one thing we want to understand is that 5 is what we call a prime number. So a prime number is any number that only has 2 factors, the number 1 and the number itself. Okay? It's important for you to know these definitions because you're going to really need them to understand the material in chapter 6. So anytime you have factors and you have a number that only has 2 factors, that number is called a prime number. Okay? All right. So then we have 18. So what are the factors of 18? So pause it and see if you can do the factors of 18. Okay, so for 18, we should have 1, 18, 2, 9, 3, and 6. And so those would be our factors of 18. So then we have 10. So factors of 10 would be 1 and 10, 2 and 5, right? So you just go through your numbers and you see what can divide evenly into the numbers. And then that's how you just list all those numbers that can divide evenly into them, okay? If you don't just already know them from knowing your timetables. So pause it and we're going to work the rest of them. All right, so for 20, we should have 1, 20, 4, 5, 2, and 10. For 25, we should have 1, 5, and 25. For 16, we should have 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. And then for 13, we should have 1 and 13. And 13 is a prime number. Okay? So you got to practice your timetables with these. So make sure you're doing really good with your calculator. You got to use your calculator. That's fact.